Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, is my fellow co-host, someone who likes to collect miniatures, Jason Johnson.
Yep, sure thing. Miniature horses, miniature cows, miniature donkeys, miniature golf, all the minis.
Miniature candy, miniature chocolates.
I figured I could just do a whole podcast on miniatures, but
Yeah.
it would not be a miniature podcast.
You have to collect them, you gotta paint them, they're really tiny, it's hard. All right, so on today's podcast, just the Farscape this time. So we'll do the next in the series here with Farscape Season 4, Episode 8, I Shrink, Therefore I Am. And next time, we'll also be covering the first part of the new Marvel series that just dropped yesterday as we record this, Agatha All Along, in addition to the next Farscape episode. But as again, this time around, just the one Farscape. And as always, our little PSA here, if you like our little podcast here, please help spread the word with likes or reviews or on the social medias, wherever. We would appreciate it very much.
Yep, and we promise nobody will shrink away from you if you do.
Yep. You don't have to be a shrinking violet, just shout it from the rooftops.
And, feel free to share with your shrink too, whatever works for you.
Yeah, because I thought about that after last episode. I'm like, well, okay, shrink could be psychology stuff, but okay. Nope. It's what you think it is, which we'll get into here in a second.
Yep, it is what it says on the cover.
All right, so this is an even one, so I believe that is your recap duties.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into Farscape Season 4, Episode 8, I Shrink, Therefore I Am, in case you missed it the last time you said that. All right, so the episode starts with John and Naranti on their way back to Moya in the transport pod. However, they receive no response on their comms. Are you eager to see the others again? Naranti asks, with John saying that it hasn't been that long. Still, you miss Aaron, she says, as he has flashes of memories. Or don't you? John says it's been a few hours since he thought about her, and then my remedy must be working, she says, telling him to take it for as long as he needs it. I don't need it, he says, just takes the edge off. And then he sniffs more of the drug, as Pilot calms him. John tells him to get everybody to the hangar as he has a load of supplies. Unfortunately, nobody's available to assist you at the moment, Pilot responds mysteriously. John asks what they're doing, and then is asked to speak to Captain James T. Dargo. I get that reference.
Yeah.
Sikozu is seen sitting in front of Pilot's consoles, handcuffed, with Chiana next to her. Cod Dargo is currently helping Rigel with his laundry, Pilot continues, and Aaron is writing some poetry. John asks about Sikozu and Chiana, seemingly realizing there's something wrong. Enjoying each other's company, preparing a meal for everyone but Rigel, he's not hungry, is the response. John ends the conversation while Naranti comments how nice it is that everybody's getting along. Yeah, she pays attention.
Yeah, she's not been part of this crew for very long.
John tells her that something's wrong, maybe the game isn't over, or Scorpius is really loose. As the pod closes in, John sees an alien ship attached to the side of Moya.
Dun dun dun.
Uh-oh. Then back on command, an alien watches Graze's wanted beacon, where both Aaron and Dargo are seen handcuffed, along with an alien who tells Pilot to prepare Docking Bay 2 for landing, which he does. John says to give him a minute to get the crates locked down while he really prepares himself and his weapons. Durante says that her mixture is ready. It'll keep her in vacuum coma for at least 3 arms so she can survive outside in space. As John comes into the dock, one of the aliens notices the approach vector is wrong and orders the evacuation of his ship and puts his troops on full alert as John's pod crashes into the alien ship. The lead alien, and I'm only going to try to say this one, Axicor, says that John's destroyed their boarding craft, so he's beginning to see why the bounty is so high. One of his men says that no one could have survived that, but the leader is sure that John is alive somewhere on board and is ingenious.
Yeah, gotta watch out for that guy. He's smart. Tricky.
Yeah, his reputation precedes him. The leader's men, Axicor, I guess I'll try to keep going here.
That's right.
All right. Axicor's men search for John tier by tier as, on command, Rigel asks who these people are. Your captor is Axicor's reply. Rigel says it's only temporary, and Axicor says not to prolong this and for them to tell John to come to command. Tell him yourself, is Dargo's response. Axicor says that the longer this lasts, the more likely it is that one of them will be dead. Aaron tells him there's no chance they'll cooperate. As John stops in a conduit above to listen in, Axicor threatens Dargo with a knife, mentioning how entertaining it would be for him to use it on Dargo. He then opens comms and tells John that if he comes now, they won't be harmed, but if you resist, we'll take out your shipmates, and he gives Aaron a bit of pain through her handcuffs. One of his men tells him that nothing of their ship can be salvaged. The alien says he'll contact the command carrier to have them picked up, but Axicor refutes that too, saying that they'll contact Grayza only when they've captured Crichton. John sniffs more of the drug, and one of the men seems to hear the heavy breathing. As everyone remains silent, Dargo realizes what's going on. Aaron, he says, I think we should negotiate. She looks back blankly. No, I really think we should negotiate, he says. She catches on, and she, Dargo, and Rigel begin rambling in their native tongues. Axicor calls for silence, and the other bounty hunter says it's no good. John's gone. But Axicor points out that now they know he's in the ducts. He denies the suggestion to follow John up there and says they'll draw him out. He sends his men to search, then turns to Rigel and asks which one of the crew John cares most for. Rigel says it's me, of course, but Axicor seems to read his thoughts that suggest Aaron first, probably Chiana next. Axicor asks where he'll go now. Center chamber for a nice hot Raslak, Rigel replies, but thinks that John will go to his quarters for weapons and the shield belt, then head for Pilot's Den.
Well, hey, the shield belt's still around, so that's good.
Oh, yeah. Axicor tells his men what Rigel's thoughts suggest and to secure Pilot's Den. Chiana asks Sikozu if she can distract them by running up the wall or something, but she can't in the handcuffs. She's about to present an argument for letting them go, but Chiana instead tries to entice one of the hunters. If I wanted you, I'd take you, he suggests. Sikozu tells him to leave Chiana alone, so he says he'll show both of them. Pilot tells him to leave them alone, but the hunter shuts him up. John enters the cargo bay to find the DRDs shut off. One of the hunters tells Axicor that he's in John's quarters and he hasn't come near. John goes to Scorpius' cell, which is empty. He is almost caught by one of the hunters, but manages to get out of the way. He finds DRD 1812, who was playing possum, and asks if he can get any of the other DRDs up and running, which it responds that it can. On command, Dargo tells Axicor to relax, as he'll see John sooner or later. I microp before he kills you, Aaron remarks. As John is procuring weapons, Scorpius appears. John points his gun at him and says he sold them out. Nothing of the kind, Scorpius insists. He points out the only reason he's evaded capture is because the bounty hunters don't know he's here. He was gone by the time they got to his cell. He says the door to his cell was wholly inadequate. John asks if that means he could have gotten out at any time he wanted. I never wanted to, was the response.
Sure.
John lowers his gun, and Scorpius says the bounty hunters captured the crew in a matter of microds, and immobilized all escape shafts and DRDs except for 1812. John points out that 1812 is on a different wavelength. He's not from Moya. John tells him that he will go take the bounty hunters down one by one. By luring them into an ambush, you could use some assistance, Scorpius mentions. You really think our relationship has progressed that far? John responds, and then hands him a gun.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, here you go.
Yeah. If you trust him now, okay.
Enemy of my enemy, right?
You're right. In desperate times, all that. John enters the fan room, and calms Axicor. He says they could pay more than the peacekeepers will. Axicor tells him no deal and to turn himself in to spare the suffering of the others. Axicor notices the noises of the fans and tells his men to check all the airflow chambers. One of them walks in and Scorpius creeps up behind him. Are you looking for someone? He asks, but his gun doesn't fire. He turns and says, thank you, John, before being shot.
Hee hee.
John jumps out and fires multiple times so the bounty hunter stays down. You didn't expect me to give you a loaded gun, did you? John asks Scorpius. Well, yes, Scorpius replies. Axicor is informed that one of his men is dead, and Dargo, Rigel, and Aaron say they tried to tell him about John, but he never listens. Axicor says it's still early and initiates a containment plan. John counts his weapons, but it's not nearly enough. He says there's always the pulse chamber overload trick if he can lure them close enough, so he needs a volunteer for the dangerous mission. The torment continues, as Scorpius remarks. In Pilot's Den, one of the men makes Sikozu stand and starts hitting a keypad on his arm. Chiana slows things down and watches what he does. He shrinks Sikozu to minuscule size. Meanwhile, on command, Axicor stands Dargo up, and Rigel distracts Axicor while Aaron attacks him. Dargo manages to grab the comms from the table with his tongue. Axicor then shrinks Dargo and puts him in a small container in his chest. He tells Aaron to relay to John what she just saw, and she tells him the hunters have shrunk Dargo to no larger than a hand length, and he's imprisoned inside the head bounty hunter. Axicor says others will follow, and killing one of his men will be killing one of the crew, or more, and tells John to give himself up. Aaron quickly adds that the device is activated by a combination of numbers on the headset, as she is then also shrank.
So there's your episode title, effectively.
Yeah. I still think they should have went with Shrunk the Crew. But anyway, Scorpius tells John that he can't give up as he begins to overheat. He recalls a Peacekeeper file about the Koreshi, known for constructing cells in various forms and reputed to possess reduction technology. Scorpius says that to keep the prisoners alive, the container must be near impossible to damage. John says that he can't take that chance. Is there another choice? Sikozu and Rigel are in their container, where Sikozu says that the shrinking can't be happening. It's impossible. If they've had their atoms shrank, they couldn't breathe normal-sized air molecules. Rigel says they're here, and it was done, and that's that. He's been around long enough to know how ignorant he is. I don't assume the universe obeys my preconceptions, but I know a frailing fact when it hits me in the face.
Rigel, voice of reason.
Yeah, one of the odd spaces where she's not and he is. John and Scorpius, along with 1812, prepare the bait. Scorpius is smoking, not like smoking, but smoking, and mentions that Sikozu's replacement coolant rods don't work as well in times of exertion. They put the pistol in place, and one of Axicor's men hear the noise. He goes down and tells John to come out. If John destroys him, he destroys Aaron and Chiana. As the pistol is about to overload, he shrinks it, and the explosion is minuscule. John signals 1812, who sets off a trap that immobilizes the alien. Scorpius points out the containment capsule, and 1812 begins to shoot to remove it. Axicor sends more men out as contact was lost on Tier 16. Scorpius says there's no more time and pulls out the container. As more men come along, John is shot in the leg, and Scorpius tells him to run and acts as a decoy, and is soon captured. John takes them to a hiding place where they'll be okay, but Chiana is blind. Aaron points out that their first priority is to rescue the others. John sniffs more of the drug as Axicor calms again, saying that if John turns himself in, he'll restore the females to full size and set them free. He adds that John is costing him money and time, and he'll pass up the females' bounties in exchange for John.
Sure he will.
Yeah, he sounds like a trustworthy guy, so. John asks about the others, but Axicor says he's not that generous. Chiana and Aaron can't tell John where the bounty hunters put the others, and Chiana tells him she used her vision. She knows the codes to remove the handcuffs and to shrink things. On command, one of the hunters tells Axicor that Scorpius was helping John, who was hit in the leg. Axicor sends the men off, then turns to Scorpius, who he knows by name. That's interesting. Meanwhile, Chiana worries that her sight may not return this time, saying that she hates the feeling of being blind. Axicor asks Scorpius why he's here. Because you captured me, Scorpius replies. Axicor tries to read Scorpius' mind, but Scorpius responds in Scaran that this won't work on him. So you know, Axicor asks. Scorpius says that the armor doesn't fool him, and Axicor says Scorpius should bow down. Entropy will claim the universe before I bow to a Scaran. Even one of the ruling order, Axicor asks as he removes his mask to reveal a more humanoid head, unlike that of the other Scarans. Scorpius realizes that he's not after John for the bounty, but to take him to his masters. Axicor says that they're eager to learn why Scorpius and Grazer are so interested in Crichton, but capturing Scorpius is a bonus beyond measure. Scorpius says that he'll see Axicor dead, but is shrunk instead. John goes to the cargo bay with a plan to trap the other hunters in it using 4 DRDs. Chiana's sight is returning, but meanwhile Scorpius is in the container with Dargo, who spits out the comm. He says to signal John, but Dargo wants answers first. As John finalizes the preparations, Axicor is with Pilot, telling him to send a transmission as soon as he releases the cuffs. Scorpius tells Dargo that Axicor is a Scaran spy and says that John can't fall into Scaran hands. He listens as Axicor signals the Dreadnought to come and pick him up, along with Moya. Scorpius says that the Scarans will spare no one. Dargo calms John. Can you trust Scorpius, he asks. More today than yesterday? Why? John asks in reply. Dargo explains the scare and plot as the other hunters surround the cargo bay. One goes in and John fires, but it has little effect. Another comes up behind him and knocks him to the floor. Pilot says that he received no acknowledgement to Axicor's signal, as John tells the hunters that Axicor is a Scaran and he's called for a dreadnought. They don't believe him, so John tells them to get Pilot to play back the message and have Axicor explain why he's speaking in Scaran. John says that he's dead either way, and they can take it out on him if he's lying. But if he's telling the truth, they're in trouble. One of the hunters goes to Axicor to get him to remove the armor, but Axicor initiates a self-destruct in everyone else's armor.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So much for plan C, or whatever we're up to now.
Yeah, I guess it costs the hunters an arm and a leg. John gets 1812 to get the handset for one of the corpses, as Axicor receives a response from the Scarans. Scorpius says that the dreadnought won't risk coming to Moya with a command carrier in the area, so he has to rendezvous elsewhere. John puts on the handset and releases the cuffs with Chiana's codes, and releases the other container with Sikozo and Rigel. He can't make them big yet, as he doesn't have those codes. Dargo calms John that Axicor is on his way to escape, maybe by stealing Aaron's prowler. Frail that, Aaron says, and John goes to try and intercept him. Aaron leaves too. John reaches the maintenance bay as Axicor releases the magnetic locks. Aaron comes in riding a DRD, disabling the prowler while John takes Axicor. Axicor shoots in her direction and she falls to the floor. Yeah. John hits Axicor with a metal panel and retrieves Dargo and Scorpius, but is knocked over as they roll away. Axicor and John both shrink each other, but Axicor enlarges himself. Get big code, John says, having noted how he did it. He enlarges himself, and they tussle, shrieking each other again. John manages to enlarge himself, saying, "One small step for man." He stomps on Axicor.
Squish him like a bug.
I think there was a cockroach reference there, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some more John doing some Spanish cucaracha or something.
Yeah. This spot where I mentioned I barely passed high school Spanish, so I won't make any claims to understand. John and Dargo discuss what to do with Scorpius. They don't have a cage that can hold him, and he did put himself in the line of fire for them. They agree to keep an eye on him 24/7. Rigel calms to say that there's an old woman floating outside.
Oops.
So John asks Dargo to haul Naranti in. Yeah. I knew I liked this episode.
Yeah. We're missing something. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, if only they'd thought about that a few, arms later. But anyway, Pilot calms Aaron to ask her advice before he and John approach Captain Dargo. That's James T. Dargo. He says that with the danger they face in Peacekeeper space, and even in the uncharted territories, and given that the Scarans will be looking for them now, they're reluctantly forced to consider traveling into tormented space. John asks Aaron if Aaron knows what that is. She stays silent before saying it's a place where neither Peacekeepers nor Scarans will travel. Right, it's a rough neighborhood, John says. Those who go there usually vanish, Aaron points out, as Pilot adds that navigation is hazardous, as the area is reportedly a nexus for wormholes. John says that Moya sees no other choice despite her reluctance. Aaron says that neither does she, and John says, "Look, on the bright side, it can't be as bad as some of the places we've been lately." "Trust me, it can," she says. The end. Little trivia from this episode. Originally, the aliens were going to be the size of refrigerators, and the characters would be placed inside of them.
Yeah. Now, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, right. Walking refrigerators around. David Kemper came up with the idea of miniaturization ray, as it solved a number of the practical problems, including the audience being able to see the crew when they were captured.
And probably lots cheaper, see above trivia about giant refrigerator people.
The scene with Aaron Soon on the DRD had to be shortened when Claudia Black fell ill. This is the first appearance of the Scaran ruling caste. In light of their higher intelligence, Dave Elsey nicknamed them Brain Scarans. The flashing eye lights were indicating which hunter was speaking were inspired by the Daleks of Doctor Who. Both Ben Browder and Wayne Pigram objected to Crichton giving Scorpius a loaded weapon, leading to the change. Jim Henson's Creature Shop had numerous discussions with safety officers to ensure that the weapons that in the Koreshi gloves could not be used to cause would not cause real harm. When Aaron, Dargo, and Rigel start negotiating, air quotes, they appear to begin speaking their own languages. And finally, Dargo's tongue demonstrates a new ability, retrieving small items. So, what'd you think about this one, Eric?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a really great episode. Um, the creature shop really came through again with amazing alien costumes. I mean, I loved like their body armor that the hunters had. Kind of reminded me, I don't know if you remember this from back in the 70s, but Micronauts. Uh, and there's a one called Baron Karza that looked just like these guys. So I don't know if that's where they got the inspiration from that old action figure and slash Marvel Comics line from like late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, I mean, this pretty much has everything you love about Farscape. It's got the comedy, action, and of course, great dialogue. Great interactions with the crew. Especially with the scenes with John and Scorpius, which we'll get into in more detail here later. But yeah, overall, two thumbs up for me. What do you think?
It's similar. I wasn't sure about it when it started out, but once we got onto Moya and the plot started kicking, I found it was really enjoyable. I'm sure we'll dive into the shrinking, but I'll say they did a really good job with the shrinking and raising rays, especially we consider when this came out. Uh, and I didn't really think as much about the character designs, but now that you kind of pointed out, they did a really good job, I think, with the suits. Because if I didn't immediately notice to oh that's another weird alien outfit, so I think it just fit the theme of the hunters so well. I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that Farscape's known for too. Plus, with having the Jim Henson people behind everything, they make some fantastic creatures from the movies, the TV shows, Muppets, all that kind of stuff, and they really just. I was just like, that armor is so cool.
Yeah, and you know, I'm familiar with Micronauts. I never read or read it back then, I guess. I'm definitely not familiar with the figures, but so I didn't get the reference. I couldn't tell you one Micronaut from another, but I do know they had some Marvel interactions with some of the various characters. So that's about my limit of my knowledge there.
Yep. One of my many sets of comic books downstairs is some of the Micronauts. Yeah. So,
One of your many or many?
oh, many, many, many. My entire basement. Anyway, we won't go there. So yeah, so let's jump in some things here. So we open, like you said, kind of boringly on a transport pod. John and Naranti, I guess they let her off the ship finally to, or please leave the ship, go somewhere. And I guess they went out to get some supplies from somewhere, as they always do. And then, yeah, John calms Pilot and he starts acting all weird, explain that, yeah, well, everyone's kind of busy, no one can help you, and then explains why by giving completely out of character reasons why they can't help them, which was hilarious. And of course, John knows that something's wrong because Rigel's never not hungry, for sure. And I guess it's a good thing that Naranti can whip up stuff to make her survive in vacuum, since I guess they only have one spacesuit, maybe, or whatever. And of course, it's a fantastic way to write her out of the episode entirely after this point. Haha. So,
Yeah, I'll agree. We get to take advantage in, in the character interactions here with, how much time this crew's been together, so that it's totally believable that it's easy for John to pick up on the conversation with Pilot, and he immediately knows everything he needs to know about. Everybody's been captured. He walks through the crew, and Pilot gives him the ludicrous scenes, and immediately he knows, yep, everybody's captured. The whole crew's out of um, commission. So, uh, good play with our crew interactions, and yeah, as you mentioned, uh, I enjoyed that we got rid of Naranti for the rest of the episode. Made no secret about that. Speaking of which, what was she doing at the beginning of this episode? Like, she was like all on. I don't know the interaction with her and John, and the character movements, and what I don't know. I was like, I can't believe he's tolerating her, but I guess as we'll get into in a little bit, now that she's his dealer, he put up with whatever. I don't know what was going on there.
yeah, because it's like that game that you see people playing with their siblings. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching. And she's like behind him, like hovering with her hands around his head, and he's trying to talk, and she's just like, ooh. I'm like, what in the heck? Are
Right? Yeah.
and why aren't you like, lady, sit down? Like,
Because like normally he would. Normally he's like, stop being crazy. And this time he's just like focused on talking to Pilot as if nothing else is going on.
yeah, which is probably at this point he just probably just gave up. It's like, fine, do your thing, and I'll just ignore you.
I guess the rule's no touching, right? So as long as
Yeah,
she,
right.
she literally comes as close as possible without touching him, he won't say anything.
Yep. And then I wasn't exactly happy that John's using this remedy or whatever you want to call it that she gave him last episode to help him suppress his feelings for Aaron. Although, okay, I guess in the greater context of this episode, I guess you can argue that it helped him focus on rescuing everybody and not being too distracted by he has to save Aaron and the baby. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see where this goes. But I don't know. At least they are keeping the plot threads moving from previous episodes.
Agreed. They kept it moving without making it too much of a focus. I mean, they did have a call out to it with him having to stop in the middle of the air duct, and obviously that led to them almost being discovered. Uh, so I'm expecting they're going to weave this into some kind of future addiction storyline that he has to overcome now that he's kind of addicted to her, whatever it is she gave him. Which again questions me her intentions, but she's just weird. So I don't know, is that good or bad, or is it malicious? You know what? I don't know. I don't understand the character, so I guess we'll find out as we roll.
Yeah, because now we're actually we're over a third of the way through the season, and so it's like how much longer they're gonna stretch this out. At some point, they have to drop this whole thing and hit it head on here. But again, we have two-thirds of a season to go, so
They'll wait till the end of the miniseries, right?
yeah, that I remember and no. So I tell you that in advance. It's not that long. And yeah, I thought it was kind of odd that when the people in command, Dargo, Aaron, and Rigel knew that John was kind of up there listening to them because he's being having his little moment there with his little drugs, that they distract the hunters by just speaking all at once in their native languages. But don't they do that all the time anyway? And that's what the translator microbes are for, to make you hear it in your own language. So why were we hearing their language? I mean, I don't know. Like trying to headcanon this, can like those microbes get overwhelmed if they're trying to translate too many things at the same time, so they can't like go fast enough? I don't know. It's kind of funny, but it's just kind of like if you think about it later, you're like, huh?
Yeah, I totally missed that. I thought I missed that native language thing. I thought they were just making gibberish noises. So knowing that now, I kind of agree. I'm like, I, I'll be honest. I forget that everybody's not supposed to be speaking English, and that the translator microbes are a thing, because it's a good way to hand wave. It's like the universal communicator or whatever. We don't have to think about the fact that no matter where we go, they speak English, uh, because otherwise I would be reading subtitles for the entire show. So, but yeah, that seems odd, but it seemed to work out it worked for the scene, right? Because they needed some way to distract them.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. It was kind of funny, but yeah, if you think about it, you're like, but wait, they're speaking their native language anyway. So, which granted, I'm sure John or people would hear their language, but then somehow in their head they would have it translated somehow to like their language. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, is there like a delay? Like, I don't. If you think about it, it makes you wonder. Like, how does it actually work? Like, is it real time? Is it a little bit of a delay? Was it like you speak your language, then it's translating? Whatever. I don't know. But you're not supposed to.
Except for Sikozu.
Yeah, except for her, she can't do that. So yeah, which must be interesting for her. But anyway, and we got some more interesting, I guess, continuing this little thread of microbes and translations and stuff. So Axicor is somehow reading Rigel's mind. Of course, now we know because he's a Scaran, but at that point we didn't know. And he hears Rigel perfectly in whatever language Rigel's thinking. So translator microbes work with telepathy, I guess, or maybe he speaks Hynerian. I don't know. Again, just things that make you go but it didn't really affect my enjoyment of the episode. But just kind of makes you wonder how this stuff works.
It does, and I know we'll talk about the fact that we don't know at this point that he's a Scaran, so we'll talk about that when we get there. But the telepathy thing, is that a Scaran thing or a Hunter thing, or I guess we know it's a Scaran thing, but since it is a Scaran thing, wouldn't that have been suspicious to the other hunters that all of a sudden he knows this information? Like, okay, I magically know he's going to go here. I magically know that this is the person he would have been interested in. I don't know. I'm curious how he's hiding that on a routine basis.
Yeah, because weren't there other hunters in command with him? And he said like he something like he thought or he's thinking or whatever like that. Wouldn't it be like, wait a minute, we can do that?
Well, yeah. Well, even if he didn't say it, right? He asked Rigel. He says, where would he go? And Rigel says he'd go here, and he immediately turns around and goes, "Hey, go to his quarters." And it's like, but Rigel just said that. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, boss. What?
Right.
Let's walk that back for a second. What?
I'm gonna need you to repeat that in slow.
Yeah, but hey, it was still interesting, and it makes you think they're mysterious because they had like the I guess augmented hearing or something because they could hear John breathing or his heartbeat up in the vents, so that kind of stuff. So maybe they have a bunch of gadgets that do stuff. Who knows? At this point, you're like, okay, they got gear and things, and they're weird aliens, and who knows what they can do? Yeah. So,
Yeah, well, his inhaler was pretty loud, so.
yeah. Well, gotta sniff up a lot of stuff to forget Aaron, I guess. More on that maybe eventually, or not. We'll see.
Nah.
Yeah. Yeah. We hate that plot line. We'll
Yeah,
talk about.
rolling on.
Yeah. Then we get some of the funny bits or interesting bits here. John meets up with Scorpius, who apparently can just get out of his cell anytime he wants. He just does never want to. And yeah, we get our first little great scene with John and Scorpius. He's like, "Oh, that's great, John. You're gonna take down the hunters one by one, so it must be an ambush. Let's help." And John's like, "I don't know. Has our relationship gotten that far?" And it's like, "Here, have a gun." I'm like, "Well, I guess it has." I don't know. He kind of surprised me, but kind of thinking him out, I'm like, nah, he's not gonna give him a loaded gun because at this point he doesn't really know if Scorpius is lying, that he's not working with these hunters, or if he really is all concerned and wants to help John. So, or maybe wouldn't betray him later, right? It's like he gives him a gun, and later it's like, okay, we're gonna get the drop on him. No, John, I don't think so. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, how many curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal moments do we need?
right.
Um, although, uh, it did have me thinking, or I guess, are they wanting us to think at some point Scorpion's actually going to be a normal member of the crew? Kind of like Crace, right? We spend a lot of time with Crace being the bad guy chasing our guys around, and by the end, he's, full on crew member. Is that where they're trying to get with Scorpion, where eventually he's just going to be, part of the gang? Oh,
Well, I mean, jumping to the end here, it's like they're like, well, we can't keep him locked up, so I guess he's just gonna roam around. So let's keep an eye on him. So I mean, now he's in Gen Pop basically walking around. So I mean, we'll see where it goes.
yeah.
And then we got jump into our next great Scorpius scene in the fan room, which like he said, hey, the fan room. So they built the sets, keep using them. So,
Yeah, I'm a fan of it.
hey, and yeah, Scorpius just casually sneaks up behind one of them and points a gun at him, and burp. He turns, is like, thanks, John. He gets blasted. So I was like laughing out loud when that happened because he's not dead, but it's just a hilarious scene. Your typical cartoon scene, right, with the unloaded gun. And then after John kills the hunter, he's like, "Well, yeah, you didn't expect me to give you a loaded gun, did you?" And Scorpius is like, "Well, yeah." So that's just hilarious. I mean, that's again the great dialogue that they have on the show. And I don't know. I guess Scorpius, in his mind, is thinking like, "Well, everything's okay now that they've got the common enemy," and fully expects John to cooperate with him and help out and give him everything he needs, right? Nope.
Yeah. I, yeah, I definitely I enjoyed this too. I think we were definitely getting some Harvey feeling in their relationship, right? Their interactions are getting back there, but this time we get to do it with the real life Scorpion instead of the imaginary in his head Scorpion. So yeah, I enjoy that because that was what made the Harvey scene so great, right? Was their interactions.
Hmm.
Don't quite get the Men in Black or the movie theater scenes or any of the cool stuff that we got when it was in John's head. But we still get the dialogue and the interaction. So
Yeah, and Scorpius is like, "Hey, I'm on your side now, right? I said I was a couple episodes ago, and so yeah, okay, you trust me now." Nope. But keep thinking that.
keep thinking it.
And then we get to I guess the name part of this episode. We get the scenes with the hunters shrinking down the crew one by one and putting them in these little containment bottles that then they like slot inside their chest, which is again pretty cool. And then yeah, like we said in the recap, we get the great Rigel and Sakosu scene where she's like just obviously doing her thing of overanalyzing everything, saying that that this can't be true. It's a fake. We're not shrunk. Otherwise, we couldn't breathe normal air molecules. And Rigel's like, no, that's not even. No, don't even bother. It's like deal with it. Obviously, it's happened. We're small. Just deal with it. And I don't know. I didn't think anything about it. I mean, I guess with all the movies and comics and whatever of people changing size all the time, I never really thought about how that might affect breathing because small things breathe air and big things breathe air, and like I didn't think it made a difference. But so I was just like, well, Ant-Man and company can breathe when they're shrunk, so sure. What's the big deal?
Same here. I obviously read similar comics and movies and stuff like that. So we it, you know from the Honey I Shrunk Your Kids days and earlier. We've accepted the fact that people could just shrinking and enlarging are just part of sci-fi. But I love the analysis though. I thought the analysis she did made sense. It made me stop and go, wait a minute, how does that work? And it gave a good chance for her and Rigel to play off each other, which again, character dynamics is one of the strong points, if not the strong point of the show. And it was kind of a cool back and forth between the two of them.
Man, they haven't had too many scenes together yet, so it's kind of fun, start broadening the crew interaction. And then, yeah, John's got his cunning plan for getting at least some of the crew members away without harming them. I'm guessing the one scene where had the overloaded pistol on the floor there, I guess that was his plan, that they would see that because it's right there on the floor, and I can't remember if it was beeping or I don't know if it tells you it's going to explode, unlike Star Trek phasers, but so of course he shrinks it down. It makes a little poop, poof when it blows up. And then 1812 triggers like the spike trap, basically, like a la Predator or whatever, and basically skewers the hunter, and 1812 to the rescue here. But and then they get them out, and then more hunters show up, and Scorpius again showing new sides of him, I guess, acts as a decoy and allows John to get away, and he gets captured. So more reasons, I guess, to he's not in on this, I guess.
I also, and I think this might have been from an earlier scene that they mention it, but I'll throw it in here. I really like the callback for the fact that 1812 is on a different frequency than the other DRDs. And so, shutting down the others doesn't necessarily affect him. He's more autonomous because he came from the other Leviathan. So,
Yeah, and he's like smart enough to play possum, because John's like, oh, you're playing possum, huh? So,
well, I forget how long did he and John spend together on that. I mean, he probably learned more from John than we give him credit for. So,
yeah, it was probably, I don't know, it was, I guess, long enough for John to grow that big long
that's what I was
beard,
thinking.
so it's
It
probably
was
at least several weeks, a month, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It'd take me a long
Or, or,
time to grow a
or,
beard
or
like
more than
that.
that, because I don't know how long Erin was gone doing whatever she was doing, so it could have been months. Yeah. So, got that good bonding time. And
He had the Robinson Crusoe look going on.
yeah, yeah. Was it one episode of her Farscape with him?
Oh, on the beach.
Yeah, where he was
Oh
he was
gosh.
there, he was stranded there for months or weeks or whatever. And yeah.
Yeah, don't think about how much time he's actually spent in space. He'd be like 60 by now.
Yeah, because it's three seasons for us, but how long has it really been? It's probably 4, 5, 6 years maybe for him. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then going with a little nice continuing scenes here, we get some great, a good scene with Scorpius and Axicor, the leader, where we find out that Axicor is actually a Scaran spy pretending to be a hunter, which I guess the hunters go around a lot and probably hobnob with the peacekeepers doing bounties. So yeah, pretty good disguise. And he's not just your regular Scaran. No, he's one of the ruling Scarans, which I guess look a little different, and maybe can do the telepathy part, or I forget. No, I think Scarans can do that too, right? They can. Well, maybe not. But anyway, he's special, and Scorpius figures out that he's not obviously going to take John and the crew in for the bounty, but he's going to take him. Well, really, just John. Really, everybody else who cares, to his Scaran masters. But I guess thinking about it, I guess there's been obviously bounties now with Greyza. There were bounties in prior seasons on the crew that Scorpius put out. So I guess that's finally gotten the Scarans to take an interest in what's going on. It's like, what's special about this John Crichton guy that now two different peacekeeper commander people are offering gigantic bounties for, and now it all comes full circle. That's exactly what Scorpius was afraid of.
Well, and given how much of an interest they have in Scorpius, I can see that logic, right? It's only a matter of time if they're paying attention to Scorpius and his importance, and he's like dedicated this much focus to John, then obviously that raises John on their radar even more so than he would have been just from all the other interactions the crew has. So, yeah, matter of time, which I guess means we'll be running into more Royals later. This isn't the last we see of the Royal design.
Yeah, because now we're heading into now the Scarans are looking for everybody. They were having the stalemate with the peacekeepers and whatever war they're having or stalemate they're having. So yeah, I guess they're looking for anything that could tip that balance. And it's like, oh, giant bounty on this one guy. That's the same guy that Scorpius really liked. I wonder why.
So what we're rushing towards is the end of the Blues Brothers movie where everybody's just chasing everybody.
Yep, with less cars, but yeah,
Cars, ships,
yeah, you know.
space Nazis. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so can Moya just like grow another transport pod? Because they blow through those pretty quick, right? How many does Moya have, or does she just be able to rebuild or grow another one? I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like the fan room. They just keep finding them.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, there's another docking bay. We didn't know we had one. Oh, there's look, it's full of transport pods. Hey. All right. And then yeah, we more Scorpius helping here. While he's shrunk inside the Axicor's little containment cell, he hears him telling Pilot to call a scare, or having Pilot open comms. He calls for a scare and dreadnought. So Dargo with his new ability of pilfering things with his tongue calms John with the comm he stole, fill John in, and then John's, Dargo asks, can you trust Scorpius? And John's like, well, more today than yesterday. When, yeah, pretty much. He's been like, what, 3 for 3, 4 for 4 now, or whatever. So, yeah, he's definitely on John's side today. And then, yeah, I guess John's luck finally runs out. He gets captured, but somehow he manages to convince them to go talk to Axicor and find out if he really is a Xeran spy. And I guess the guy's like, okay, sure. So, and I thought for sure like he was going to get like killed when he confronts Axicor, and it would just be it. It's like, oh, you found me out. Boom. Okay. Meanwhile, everybody else do your thing. But no, apparently he's got some kind of self-destruct or failsafe wired into all his buddy's little armor here, and just poof takes them all out. I'm like, which I guess in retrospect was probably a good thing for John, because now, hey, you're free now.
so, and I know we try not to get terribly negative on these when we like the episode. And caveat, I did like the episode, but I'll throw in my two major complaints about the episode here. The first is and I know it's plot, right? We need it to happen, but why are the containers not soundproof? It seems to me as a bounty hunter, when you capture people and carry them around with you until you turn them over, that the last thing you want is to hear them to hear every conversation you have. Uh, just I don't know. Seems
Well,
like a major.
I guess you have to have, like when you capture bugs in the jar, you have to poke holes in it so they can breathe. I don't know.
Well, okay. I'm gonna design one that's soundproof and has like some kind of field covered holes that you can breathe through, but not transmit sound. I don't know. It's sci-fi. There's got to be something. Uh, the second one is the failsafe. That just felt, and I know it worked for John. It got him free, and we can start moving forward with that plot. But it's just like, how do these hunters not like? Did he booby trap them over time? In which case, he just hoped they didn't notice that, hey, there's explosives in my armor. Yeah. Hey, boss, why my boots have C4 in them? Like,
Yeah, it's like when they're asleep and they wake up, it's like, hey, I got this new thing in my armor. Oh, pretty cool.
well, and do they take off their armor? Because he obviously can't, because he's not like them. He's a Scaran. So anyway, don't think too hard. Is I know the answer, but those were my two nitpicks.
Yeah, because the plot says so. And then yeah, we get so John, after they all die there, he pulls off their handsets. Now he's got it. Tiana tells him the secret code for getting the handcuffs off, but all she knows is the shrinking code. So she doesn't know how to get them large again. But while they're still small, it gave us another little funny scene of shrunken Aaron, like riding on a DRD, like the cavalry charging in, you know, firing at her prowler to disable it. And then of course, I guess because she was ill or whatever, they kind of maybe cut that short, and he kind of shot her and she kind of fell off, and that was it. Which maybe they're gonna keep her driving the DRD, shooting things while John's fighting Axicor. Maybe that was the plan. Maybe I don't know. That could have been cool, but oh well. A little quick comedy bit. Okay, great. And then yeah, we get the climactic fight scene where they keep shrinking each other and enlarging each other because John, I guess, was a quick study and figured out the codes to enlarge real fast. And bad job at hiding that from Maxicor, I guess. He's here, John. Look, watch me enlarge myself. But and then yeah, it's just a matter of time, I guess, before one of them got larger quicker than the other, and then John squashes Exicor like a bug. Splat.
Yeah. So a couple things about that. I do kind of feel bad for Chiana, who had to use her superpowers, which make her go blind longer and longer to figure out the code. And John's just like, oh no, I watched it in real time and I still got it. So, you know, it sucks to be you. But that was kind of harsh. And then, yeah, the thing that stood out, that if I noticed one thing in this episode, like there, like as far as our main crew goes, it was that, you know, the Aaron riding on the DRD scene seemed like it was so set up and so cool, and then it was so short. So yeah, obviously knowing that she got sick and it wasn't what they meant it to be, I'm sure there was some epic, you know, design of it being a shootout and her being as part of that final fight scene. Otherwise, why have her leave the rest of the crew? Right? She could have stayed with the rest, everybody else, waiting for him to come back and enlarge them. But yeah, I feel not so much a complaint about the way they did it as the fact that I feel like I'm sad I missed out on getting to see it.
Yeah, 'cause it could have been cool if, like, maybe them, riding around dodging DRD fire from Aaron, like, go get him, whatever. I don't know. Or maybe she jumps off and they all get in a tussle. Who knows? But
Well, yeah, you got good potential there for what happens if, you know, Aaron's also getting shrunk and enlarged as part of the fight. What if, you know, the DRD is getting shrunk and enlarged as part of the fight? So,
yeah, and can it do the other way? Can it make people like larger? Like, so go to your normal size, and then could they be even bigger or not? It's only worked one way. I don't know. But yeah, so it could be the whole thing, and they just had to cut it down because of whatever, her getting sick or whatever.
and, and obviously they don't follow Ant-Man rules of your density increases as you shrink, because John had no trouble with a pretty graphic splat there. So
Yep. So yeah, only worked one way. And then we wrap it up with, I guess, Pilot and Moya. I think the I think the next step is to go into something called tormented space. So a place we haven't even heard of before, which I guess is even more dangerous than the uncharted territories, which must be well charted because lots of people are here. But anyway,
yeah. Well, and you know, yeah, you may have to go plaid to get there. We haven't seen yet. So.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. So I'm glad we're on the same page. Go to ludicrous space. No, yes. Yes, I guess, the peacekeepers and Scarens don't go there, even though they don't really go to the uncharted territories, but they have been for the last 3 years. But anyway, they definitely don't
They
go to
have bases
tormented
there.
space, right? And Aaron's like, nah, people used to go there, vanish, so it's not a very great place. But yeah, I guess you're right. It's we should probably go there. There's no other choice now. And apparently it's reportedly a nexus of wormholes. Um, might want to have told that to John before now. I don't know. But you know, plenty of wormholes to play around with. Maybe, hey, not like enticing him to go there, or maybe that's kind of why they didn't tell him, because we don't want to go there. But I guess we'll find out next episode, because I'm assuming that they're actually going to go there quickly and not drag that out for episodes. But we'll see, and we'll see how long they stay there if they do go there.
Yeah, unless it's like the Bermuda Triangle or something, and it's like more about getting in and out than anything. And then we'll spend like the rest of the third of the season trying to get in tormented space. And then, unfortunately, they remembered that Naranti was outside.
Yeah, well, can't have everything, I guess.
I don't know, it'd been pretty funny if they got two tormented space and they're like, wait.
What's that banging on the hull? Oh, look. Although, yeah, if you want to nitpick some stuff, when she was floating out the window there, you could totally tell that there were wires holding her, like, because you could see it like pulling up her dress or whatever. It's just like, I was like, ooh, but okay.
Yeah, that was when she's like, I really want to do some wire work. Can you come up with a reason for me to do some wire work?
Yeah. Please hang me from the ceiling for like 3 seconds a scene and take hours to hook me up. But yeah, let's do that. And was that really the actress or just somebody else? Because she was gone from the first 2 minutes and that was it. So
Yeah, she was on vacation for this episode. They just had to throw her at the beginning.
yeah. So can you tell that we're not exactly thrilled with Narenti? Anybody?
I just don't understand. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like they keep ratcheting up the weird as they keep introducing new aliens. It's like let's make it weirder than the last one, and then
I think you're right. I think that's it. It's like, each episode they're like, okay, how much more can we get them to go with? Like, what can we do? Oh, let's do that. Let's stand behind him and wave your hands and be creepy. I now creepier. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, is this the way her species is? Like, can you imagine like a whole planet full of people like her? I would go insane and want to leave immediately. So,
Oh, or maybe they exiled her and they're not like that. You know.
yeah, maybe they're like, oh no, you have to get out of here. You're just too no. Please go over there. You know, you're an ambassador to the uncharted territories. Why don't you go over there and yeah,
Here's some charts. Figure it
yeah,
out.
right. All right. Anything else you want to comment on about this one?
No, I mean, like I said, we nitpicked a little bit, but definitely one of the better ones I think for the season and the a lot of the fun Farscape camaraderie that we like to have. So, you know, again, kind of a bottle episode, but still, we had some new aliens, we got some fun scenes. So yeah, good to go.
Yeah, moving the plot along, moving the characters along. Now Scorpius is just wandering around doing his own thing. So nothing bad's gonna happen because of that. It's totally fine.
It'll be interesting where they let him, which room he gets to pick, all that fun stuff. So
Yeah, probably right next to John. All right, so next time on the podcast, we will probably for sure at this point do some of the new Marvel Agatha All Along series, as we said before, that started yesterday, and the next Farscape episode, which will be season 4, episode 9, a prefect murder. So, playing our usual guessing game of what could that possibly mean? Well, the first thing I thought of is when we met with Erin finally in this season, she and the ex peacekeeper bunch she was running around with supposedly killed some leader of a world, and the alien that came after her, that was hunting her for revenge. So I thought maybe that was that leader's title was prefect. But looking back at it, no, it was like some other weird, like made up, leader name or leader title. So maybe that's not it, unless keeping with her clever title thing, maybe that's just what they called it to make it act like, sound interesting, but that's really what it is. I don't know. If that's not it, then I'm going to guess it's probably some other leader or higher up on some planet that they go to in this new tormented space that gets killed, and maybe they either get framed for it and have to help figure out who did it to clear their names, or maybe not, and they somehow get involved in helping solve the murder of this person. I don't know. That's my best guess. What do you think?
uh, yeah, I went the same place. I was thinking it had something to do with the fact that she supposedly did that assassination. They made a big show of her sitting down and seeming seriously concerned when they started talking about going into tormented space at the very end of the episode. So my that was where my brain was. So I was thinking, yeah, um, maybe that's where the assassination actually took place, and that's why she's reticent to return. Could be something totally different. Now that you've mentioned the murder thing, I now really want a murder mystery kind of Murder on the Orient Express level. Like let's do a Knives Out murder mystery or something with the crew. I think they'd have fun with that. It'd be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, like they go to some place and meet with the leader, and the lights go out, and suddenly they hear a shot, and then lights go on, he's dead. And, oh no,
Yeah, nobody can leave until we
that's
figure
right.
out who
Or
solves the
lock
mystery.
everything down, and no one leaves the room until no. That's also a bad or a good Monty Python skit. But anyway, we won't, we won't go there. All right, well, that is your homework for next time. As much of Agatha as you want to watch, and we'll figure that out too as we get around to recording and see how much is aired by then, and the next Farscape. So go watch all that, and we'll talk about it next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.